NotebookLM is a product put out by Google, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about how to use it and what it can do and why you might want to consider using it. So it doesn't require a different Google account. You can use your existing Google account, but you do have to go to notebooklm.google.com and then say you want to start using it. It may not show up in your app icon on your Google account in your browser. So just go to NotebookLM, and it's a Google product. And what you do with it is you upload what are called sources. A source is a document or a piece of information that you specifically want the AI to work with. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But a source is considered something from Google Docs or Google Slides. So it does connect to your Google account, makes it very easy to upload things. We'll take a look at that. But you can also upload a PDF or a plain text file. You can give it web addresses, web URLs to work with. You can give it YouTube URLs, and you can also upload audio files. So say you're in a tech topic or a webinar and you have recorded it on audio and you'd like to get a summary of it, you can actually upload an audio file. Now, these are things that any AI will work with, okay? But the advantage of using it with NotebookLM is that it only looks at the specific sources you have asked it to. Whereas with generative AI, ChatGPT, Copilot, etc., it will look at your source, but it might pull some information in from outside of your source, from something that you don't want it to look at. And so that can be a challenge. So making sure it only looks at a specific source of information is the real reason people might use NotebookLM, and some people just don't need it. Okay, so that's one of the things as well. What can it do? Well, it's really great for working on specific data. So if you'd like to have a tool that can analyze a set of data that you have from documents or notes you've taken or things you've made recordings of, and you'd like to have it work on just that data, it's really great for doing that. You can ask it questions about your data, okay? It doesn't go out and look at the internet. It's just going to look at the sources that you have asked it to look at. And we'll take a look at where it might be useful. You can use it to create study guides, podcasts, summary notes, briefings, presentations. So say you have a long, 50-page document, you could ask a generative AI to analyze it and give you a summary. But when you go back and work on it again, you don't necessarily go back into the same chat session. And so NotebookLM gives you the ability to keep all of your information in a container in Google Cloud, basically, that lets you go back and reuse it over and over and over again without having to worrying about, when did I chat about that? When did I do this? Because if you look at chat activity with most of the generative AI, it's very, sequential. But if you ask something different about some different topic, it's going to create a new chat. This gives you the ability to keep things contained in a very organized fashion. It maintains privacy because it doesn't use anything you upload to it to train the AI model, and it keeps all of your files and dialogue private so that it doesn't share it with anybody else, including Gemini AI. Of course, it uses Gemini, which is Google's AI. So it's not for everybody, but if you have a lot of notes, if you have a lot of documents, if you have a lot of files, and you'd like it to kind of analyze all of those things and create a different formatting, different arrangements of it, different organization of it, it's really great for that. It uses just standard AI prompts. You can have it summarize things, you can have it reformat, you can have it refine and search and other things like that. So say you have like 20 documents that you've written that you have about different topics or notes you've taken about something in a class, and you like say find where I made a note about how to apply a a coloring, a brush maroon color with this type of brush in my painting class. I can't remember where I found that. It'll help you organize and find those types of things in your notes. So if you are taking a class, which we all do a lot, and you're looking for taking notes or anything like that, that's really helpful to be able to do and gives you the ability to focus on what it is you would like to find out about those documents that you have that you've created, or a group of websites. If you've collected, gee, I've collected 5 or 6 website, about the website articles about these topics, or I've looked at these YouTube videos. I'd kind of like to get a, summary of these things, what they are. You can control the sources as opposed to having it just do one at a time, or going out. You can collect sources over time in a notebook. It keeps things in a little compartment called a notebook that makes it easy for you to manage and utilize it. Okay, so we talked a little bit about generative AI. It's going to use its knowledge base. It can search the web, and you can't control where it's finding things always, which is sometimes good. If you're looking for answers to questions, generative AI is a great way to go out because it has a big knowledge base. It can create lots of different things. It can do different types. So say you had a book, a fictional story you're writing, though, and you say, I'd like to introduce a new female character that's a teenager that's going to high school and is having problems, with relationships. Can you interject that character into my book? And it can do those types of things. It can suggest things for you, and you can keep it, just focused on things you might want to work with. Because it uses your knowledge base. It doesn't search the web, and you can control the sources. But I mentioned it's not for everybody. So we'll take a look here. I've got my web browser open, and I'm going to show you, this is the beginning page. If you go to notebooklm.google, it'll explain it a little bit to you. It'll give you the chance to try it. That'll set up your account. They call it a personalized AI research assistant. If you don't need a research assistant, NotebookLM may not be very useful for you. Now, it says it's powered by Gemini 1.5 multimodal understanding capabilities. For those of you that have not heard the word multimodal before, what that means is that it can take a source of multiple types. It can take text, it can take images, it can take audio, okay, and it can take video, okay, so it can take a link to a YouTube video. So that's what they mean by multimodal. It's not just text, it's not just visuals, it's not just audio. It can take sources from different ways. And then it gives you some insights. It is just going to look at your information, and it keeps a note on that. And you can find where it found the source information, in what document, at one YouTube video, etc. So it gives you citations for where it finds things. So it's a study guide as much as anything. Obviously, they're useful for that, but it may be useful for some other things as well. We'll take a look at that, see if we can find out. So I have my NotebookLM open here, and you can see I have a notebook. It gives me some example notebooks. And if we take a look at the examples, it shows me that there's a couple of different sources here, and I can chat here. So this is an example notebook that serves as a tool. So I can say, give me a short explanation of the light bulb and its invention. Okay, it has some documents about that. So it's going to give me this short explanation from these documents here, okay? And it's thinking, it's going through. So here it gives me a short explanation. It's a history of innovation, and the sources are mentioned here at the bottom. So this was excerpted from the Light chapter of How We Got to Now by Steve Johnson. This is another source that was excerpted from Steve Johnson, How We Got to Now, and this is another one that was excerpted. So it pulled that information. I can copy and paste this anywhere I want to. Now, one of the cool things is that it can look at getting an audio overview of anything that I'd like to get. So I can see if I can, let me see if I can load the audio conversation. It might take a few minutes, but we'll see. It's going pretty fast on it. So it created a short audio overview of this information. So let me make sure I've got my sharing capability on so I can share sound. And let me make sure you can hear it okay. I'm going to ask if you can hear it first, then I'll play it.
Light bulbs, right.
Can you hear it? Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to play it. This is created as an audio overview. So, it just pulled this summary note that I wanted to create. It pulled all the sources here and it said, okay.
Light bulbs, right. They're so normal now, like we just kind of expect them to be there so we can actually see what we're doing when it gets dark.
It really is funny when you think about it, like flick a switch, bam, instant sunshine no matter what time it is.
But getting to that instant light wasn't instant ATLL.
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff you sent over about the light bulb itself, about Swan, about Edison, man, it proves how anything bitty simple the whole thing was.
It's so true. We're just so used to electric light now that most of us don't even think about what went into it,
Now, what I'll tell you about, you can download this audio file so that you can play it back anytime you want to. Okay, so this is their sample notebook, okay? So that we're going to get out of this, and it saves all of these notes that you create whenever you're working with it, okay? Now, I took this chip article. It was a link to a website, okay, that I used and I wrote recently on bobology.com, and I had it create a audio overview of this article. Okay, so but it explains the summary right away of what it is, and it keeps any notes that I make on it, and it gives me the ability to go back and review information over and over again. So I'm going to load this conversation, see if it takes how long it takes, because if it'll generate a conversation. So let me change this, and you'll see it's a summary. So I can have it create a frequently asked questions, a study guide, a table of contents, a timeline based on events, or a briefing document very quickly, or other types of things, but it gives you some guides as to what it might create for you.
Okay, so get ready, because today we're going deep into the world of semiconductors.
Okay.
These tiny little chips that are literally in everything.
You're everywhere.
You probably don't even realize it, but
it's true. Most people, I don't think most people really understand how ubiquitous chips are these days.
As we're talking
smartphones, laptops, your car.
Oh, yeah.
Like probably even your toothbrush these days.
It's crazy.
Has some kind of chip in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to help us unpack all of this, we're diving into this article from bobology.com, Understanding the Chip Industry.
Okay.
And we're going to try to really break down for you how this whole industry works.
Right.
So you can take anything. This was a link to my website article that I used as a source. And I just asked it to create a guide for me that basically analyzes the material. But here's the other thing. We can create a frequently asked questions. And so it generates a new note. And you can see it's saving all of these notes as I go along. So if you're doing an analysis of some existing types of information, you have the ability to save it and go back to it over and over and over again without having to go back and find things if you want to. So we can find all kinds of different ways to look at it, and it has comparing the advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing, analyzing the role of chip designers, and it'll pull from the source document that I gave it. So that's an example of something that's been done. Let's try something that we haven't done. This is how you open up a new book. It says upload sources, drag and drop, or choose a file to upload. And it tells you PDF, text, Markdown is HTML, or an MP3 file. So I have some things in Google Docs. I hope I can find them. And this was an article I wrote on biometrics. So I'm going to insert this. And it now creates a source, and it gives me a little guide here. I can generate a deep dive. Right now, it only has 2 hosts, and it only has some things. You can customize it a little bit if you want to, but not too much, unfortunately. Okay, so that's one source. Let me add another source. Okay, so I can go to Google Docs, and I have something on smartphone wallets that I did. Okay, so I can ask a question. Okay, create a new article based on a biometrics and how it works with smartphone wallets. Fortunately, it will spell correct for me here. So I can do this, and I can say, okay, start typing. It's looking at 2 sources here that are my sources, and I'm using it to come up with a new article here. I'm going to save it to a note. So now I've got this note here that I've got that basically has written an entirely new article about biometrics and smartphone wallets and how they work together. So if you have 2 specific things you want it to work with, it's great for doing that. We can use it to generate a audio summary if we want to, but I can ask questions of this data as well, and it'll analyze just my information. So let's generate this little deep dive. Again, you get frequently asked questions, study guide, table of contents, a briefing document. I could ask it to generate, a slide presentation. It'll give me bullets for slides, but I can go back and review this over without having lost my information. That's the important thing, is that I've got this information in a notebook with Google, that is kept where it keeps everything together so that I want to work with it. So it takes a little while to generate the conversation for us. So let's go back to another notebook, okay, and create a new one. Now I have a large document that I have that is an old classroom workbook that is called Content Monetization with Making Money with Blogging and Content Monetization. And I like to know, well, can you give me a table of contents of this book? It'll take a look at the whole book, and it'll generate a table of contents for me. It says, okay, here's the table of contents. It makes it easy for me to look at. Now I want to have it generate a study guide, okay? And so I can generate a study, but it saved the responses and gives me the ability to keep track of them whenever I want to look at them. So this is a PDF document. I just dragged it in and are asking it to be able to do that. So it has, some basically a study guide with questions that are in the form of a quiz and some quiz answers. So if you're somebody who likes to create quizzes from a document or an article or something you've seen on YouTube, you can create a little study guide and it includes the answers, and it includes some recommended essay questions, a glossary of key terms that are based in it. So it's really quite a useful tool where you can look at different things to get an analysis. So let's see if we have our notebook guide here. Okay, it's got the deep dive conversation here. It's actually going to, well, this is create. This is one I haven't named here. Let me name this so I'm able to find it again. This is going to be content monetization. Okay, and I can save that. I can also share them with other people. I can give other people access to this notebook so that they don't have to create the whole thing all over again, which is really convenient. So this is the untitled one that we had. That's the biometrics and smartphone wallets. And the great thing is that it keeps your information organized. So let's see if it's got, here's the biometrics and wallets. It's 5 minutes, 50 seconds. I can download it. I can share it. I can delete it if I want to. Let's see what it does. The voices are going to be.
All right. So get this. You're heading out, just you and your phone, right? Grab a coffee, pay with a tap, sail through security at work, all without your wallet.
Yeah.
That's the picture smartphone wallets is painting. A world where you are your own key, all thanks to biometrics.
It's kind of wild when you think about it.
It really is.
And it's so much bigger than just ditching like your bulky wallet, you know?
Right.
Biometrics, it's about every single little thing that makes you, well, you.
Totally. And we've all seen enough spy movies, right? Fingerprints, retinal scans, the works. But like, how does this stuff actually work in the real world?
Okay, so fingerprint scanning, right? It's almost like second nature now, but
oh, for sure.
Your phone, for example, has this sensor, and it's basically reading the pattern of all those tiny ridges on your fingertip.
So it's like,
so it actually embellishes a little bit from the articles and finds some, it takes some information, but it's using the audio source to be able to create a whole new article from the fusion of two pieces of text that I've written already because I asked it a prompt to be able to do it. And I can view the chat and see what the chat originally was, and then see the summary of what it was that you wanted to utilize. So it's a great way for creating fusion, analyzing tools. You can even add in a website if you want to and create new information. So if I want to add a source here and I wanted to link to my website, I can link to my website. I can link to a YouTube video. I can copy and paste text as well. So these are the sources, and it tells you when you're getting to 50 sources for a specific notebook. So it's a useful tool for analyzing a specific set of data and keeping track of it so that you don't have to always go back. Because if you look at something like ChatGPT or Gemini, if you go to Gemini and you look at its approach and how it works, it's going to give you a list of recent chats you've had. So this was, I asked Gemini for something, and you're interacting with a chat back and forth, like it's almost texting because it is a chat format. Whereas with NotebookLM, you're able to keep your information organized in a format where you can see information about your sources and what you're working with without having to do other types of worry about where you're going to find it. So if you want to organize your data that way, it's a great way to do it. So if you see a YouTube video, obviously you can do YouTube video, but Fred, for example, is interested in sailing. So if Fred found a whole bunch of YouTube videos about sailing and he'd like to get, hey, fine, he can create a notebook just about that. Or if you're interested in Apple Pages and tips on using Apple Pages, You can create your own notebook for that. And you can always go back and find your notebook because your notebooks are organized for whatever you choose to use them for, as opposed to information that's scattered all over the place. That was one of what I really wanted to cover about NotebookLM. It's not for everybody, but if it's something where you like to organize data about a particular topic or a particular subject, and you'd like to go back to that over and over and over again and do different things with it, you have the ability to do that with NotebookLM, whether you create the stuff yourself like I do, or whether you find the stuff on the internet and you say, gee, I'd like to just start keeping a notebook of things that I'd like to build together. Because a lot of times you'll have videos or articles that'll be repetitive. And rather than always going through the articles and finding everything that's repetitive about them, say, create a study guide for me, or create a frequently asked questions guide, or create a summary of these things, and and it'll avoid creating duplicate information from multiple sources. It only goes out to the website or the web article you specifically give it as a source. That's where the source term comes from, is that you have to tell it what web page you want it to go to, as opposed to the whole internet.
Okay.
So if you have specific web pages that you like to look at, say you were building a travel itinerary and you were collecting web pages about, going to Spain or going to Italy, and you were just collecting web pages, yeah, you can collect all those links in a notebook. But if you collected all those links in NotebookLM, you could say, give me a summary of what each of these do, and it could eliminate the duplication. It'll also find unique things, and it'll tell you what website it found the information from. It'll give you a link back to the source, because a website can be a source, a PDF can be a source, a Google Doc can be a source, a YouTube video can be a source. So each of those things is considered a source when it comes to NotebookLM. This is web-based. It's called NotebookLM. If you go to notebooklm.google.com, it's free to use. You basically create your own, can create multiple notebooks. I don't know if there's a limit on notebooks, but there's a limit of 50 sources per notebook. And then the Gemini AI is doing the analysis on what you tell it to work on. I just click plus, and then I drag something in to the space on the web page, just like
drag.
It's designed for researchers and people that are working with documents. But let's say you found a paper or something that was written in French, and you'd like to use that as a source. Well, you don't have to translate it first. I mean, NotebookLM will translate it for you and analyze the source for you as well. And it creates these nice little audio summaries of anything you want. Either you can choose, if you had 50 sources, you can select all of them, or some of them, or any one individual source for it to look at. And it'll generate the result based on the sources you select. So if you're collecting a lot of papers and notes and other things about different things, what I haven't tried yet is I haven't tried taking a picture of something and having it analyze a PDF diagram. So I haven't tried whether it works with diagrams or not to see how it does with that and summarizing it. It's great for researchers, people in the workplace, obviously for people that are in the workplace that have to work with a lot of documents on particular subjects and things like that. They can share the information so you can keep things together. So say you're working with 2 or 3 people on a project, and you want to make sure that they're all, working with the same information, and they all have the ability to get to it whenever they want to. You can give people the ability, so it supports collaboration as well, which is an important marketplace for Google to reach. For consumers, But if we like to do a lot of research on something, it's a great way to pull together a lot of things on a particular topic that we might be interested in. Say you went to a seminar or a, and they had 5 presentations on different, countries you could travel to for the summer. And you wanted to get, you just put links to all of those in one notebook. You could give it the ability to take a look at the whole notebook or just specific summaries, specific things you uploaded. So it gives you the ability to summarize everything and give you a quick view of everything, or say, well, just to take a look at the trip to Spain that I want to make, or the trip to, Japan or something like that. What are some of the things I want to do? But again, if you go out to ChatGPT, or if you go to Gemini or other, AI tools, you're always back and forth with this chat. This gives you the ability to organize all of the things that you want it to look at in one place, as opposed to having to go back, in different ways to look at things. So it's the organizational aspect of it that gives it the power, I think, more than anything else. When you see a source here, this is my NotebookLM.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what notebook you're in. If you click on the source, it gives you a screen that says upload sources or paste text. Here's a YouTube video that's mine. It's the edited video from Make Your Photos Better with Adobe Photoshop Express. So this is the URL of the video here. I'm going to copy that. Okay, then I'm going to go to my NotebookLM here, and I'm going to create a new notebook. And I'm going to put a link here from YouTube that I want it to take a look at. So right now it's only going to transcribe the text, okay, and only public videos. So now it's going to actually insert the video, and it gives me the ability to say, create a little table of contents from this. And so you can paste a YouTube video link here, and I can do it with multiple sources. I can continue to add sources and create a notebook with specific, with a whole list of YouTube videos. What it's going to do is it's going to look at the transcription of the video, not anything else, not the images. It's one of these little tools that's out there that's free to use. Obviously, it's not for everybody, but if you're trying to keep track of information and keep it organized in some way, and be able to get summaries of it, get study guides, get information on it, it's a great resource because it gives you the ability to pull it together in one place and use AI to help manipulate it and organize it and summarize and find things in it. So it's a great tool for searching for things in sources as well and telling you where it found it. It's another way to use AI and keep things a little more organized if that's what you want to do. So for people like clubs that have minutes of meetings that they keep track of, or for organizations that have policy documents or newsletters they put out, you could just create a notebook and say, hey, when did we last talk about this? So hopefully you learned something new. Thank you all for coming to another tech topic.